There's our limit too for guests.
Who would have thought that a practical cup made for construction workers ended up causing chaos in Target while people go to sell out the Valentine's Stanley Cup. So this happened 2 years ago, but I think it's still relevant to show a bit of how scarcity marketing and using trends and hype and limited stock to cause a frenzy in a shop and to keep people coming back for more. And I think Stanley is the perfect example of that. They are much older than one might think, actually. They were founded like 110 years ago, and they were specifically made actually for like the camping outdoor market. And they actually launched the Quencher, what we know as the model nowadays that got so much hype, and they were actually about to drop it because no one wanted it. They launched it in 2016, it flopped, but then there were 3 moms with an Instagram account called The Buy Guide. They do a lot of gift ideas and they push specific products at certain times of year. They actually saw potential with the Stanley Cup, and they ended up buying 5,000 units, and they ended up selling them out within 5 days. They actually then they flew to the CEO to meet up with him and to tell him basically he wasn't talking to the right audience, that he has a lot of potential with women and with a younger audience that they weren't even tapping into. And he agreed to it. And this is when they went from these like flat colors, like before it was like matte black, and it was like a couple outdoorsy colors like brown and green. Like it was supposed to be functional and it wasn't supposed to be pretty at all. And once that the Buy Guide proved that this market exists, this female feminine market, they changed the colors, they introduced these pastel colors, and that's when the hype started. Then afterwards, so Stanley hired Terrence Riley as the new CEO in 2020. And it's the same guy who turned Crocs from this ugly shoe that no one really wanted to buy into a shoe that everyone all of a sudden had to have. So first move, they changed the colors. They went for soft pinks and pastel greens. The cup stopped looking like something that your dad would have on a construction site and started looking like something that you would bring to your Pilates class. And then what they did next is how they positioned it in the market. So obviously they didn't just change a bunch of colors and all of a sudden millions of women flocked to buy it because now it's in pink. But they did influencer seeding done properly. So not paying celebrities, but seeding the right influencers who had the audience that Stanley wanted to target and to benefit from. So the Buy Guide was the start, but it then snowballed into its whole ecosystem of creators that were organically positioning the Stanley Cup in their photos, their color collections, and their setup. And then they manufactured scarcity. So they did limited edition drops, and they would do these color releases with no restock. Had the Valentine's Starbucks collab with these little pink hearts, and it was only available for 1 week. People were setting alarms, they were lining up outside Target, waiting to be the one that would get the cup. There was even apparently a woman's car who burned down, but her cup was still managed to survive the burn, with ice still inside, by the way. And Riley then had seen it on TikTok that it had 96 million views, 96, and sent her a new car and replacement cups. And that generated so much loyalty that no ad could ever do. And all of a sudden, everyone started collecting, not just buying one, but collecting so many Stanley Cups that you couldn't even imagine what to do with them all. Because last time I checked, you need 1 bottle. I have one that I got for free from my last company, and another one that I purchased 4 or 5 years ago. So I have 2 bottles, and that's enough for me. But no, some of these women have like 40 cups and are flaunting it also all over social media, and it's become like this hot ticket item, this sign of, I don't know, wealth, to have that many cups collected. Every new color drop seems to become like this hype event. But like, I think this is one thing that, like, looking at this story, I think it's easy to then think, oh, okay, I need to come up with colors that my new audience is gonna like, and I need to get influencers that they follow to do product placement, and I need to create hype and scarcity so that everyone flocks to buy my products and it's always going to be sold out. Or I need to have a viral moment that we can somehow curate naturally, organically, so that I then like come forward and pay for someone's new, I don't know, dishwasher. But that's not the lesson. The lesson is that Stanley had the right product at the right time. They just couldn't see who it was for yet, and it took 3 women, not in the Stanley company, to show them a market that was already waiting for their product. So for example, one thing was that COVID had changed everything, and this happened during COVID, where people were stuck at home, they were anxious, and they needed something to focus on, which a lot of the time became wellness and their health. Hydrating, self-care, morning routine. Apparently water talk blew up on TikTok. So suddenly this 40 Oz cup, I don't know what that is in ml, kept your drink cold all day long. And it wasn't just practical, it was a wellness statement. Stanley launched these new pastel colors in 2020, right as people were posting that girl morning routines and aesthetic desk setups at home. It looked good on camera, it came in colors that matched that aesthetic, and it signaled I take care of myself. And then owning a Stanley Cup became not only about hydration, but about belonging, being part of the community, being that girl. And then these limited editions created FOMO. Collecting colors was a hobby. So it wasn't just having the wrong audience, it was a cultural moment that also didn't exist back in 2016 when the Quencher was launched. So by 2020, the conditions were perfect. You had wellness obsession, TikTok, aesthetic culture, a new CEO who understood community, and 3 women who've already proven that the demand existed. And your store might actually have the same problem. There's an audience out there who would buy from you immediately if they found you, but they're not finding you because you're still using the wrong messaging, because you're still talking to the wrong people with the wrong message. So they didn't change the cup, they didn't change the product, but they changed the positioning around it. So that's your job, not necessarily to build a better product, but to find the people that are already waiting for your product and speak so specifically to their needs and their desires that they feel like you made it for them. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope this helps to inspire you to maybe find your Stanley Cup moment and to see that maybe your products aren't selling as well as they could or should because you're maybe not tapping into the right market. And I think something else that's also interesting nowadays, as we all know, the economic situation is abysmal, to say the least. So the economy is tighter right now, your customers are probably spending less and they're thinking harder before they actually buy something. So it's taking longer to convince someone and they're probably a bit more safe with their buying choices at the moment. It's not a reason to discount though, that's the time to maybe reposition yourself. People still spending in a hard economy are not everyone. They're a specific person with a specific reason to buy. Stanley found their person during a global pandemic and inflated prices. They tripled down on her and ignored everyone else. And they went up to 750 million in revenue from 73 million, just to say that. Make sure that you're trying to become the obvious choice for someone very specific. Find your version of that woman, speak to her only, and that's how you're going to grow when everyone else is shrinking. So I hope this helps. So if you're doing 20K a month and you feel like you're selling to the wrong people, comment your niche below and I'll tell you what your version of the Stanley Cup audience is. And thanks so much. If you like this video, please like and subscribe because I'll be doing these every week. I'll see you in the next one.